So welcome. So basically what I want to do here is just kind of get you a quick tutorial in DPLYR. And I want to explain my logic here. So when I learned R, I learned DPLYR first. And it gave me, some confidence to do some exploratory analysis on some data sets. It's really easy to learn. It's quick to be able to slice and dice data way faster than Excel. I mean, 100 times faster than Excel. And so as an Excel user, I was just naturally, I just gravitated to it. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then I continued my learning in DPLYR and in R. And as I continued to learn, I would fill in the things that I missed. Like, for example, I didn't know what a for loop was or a while loop, which I never use. But I basically filled in the gaps as I progressed forward in my R learning. But it started with DPLYR, and DPLYR is the thing that I use every single day. So I just thought I would give you a quick 8-minute tutorial on DPLYR in the hopes that you will go ahead and learn it on your own. I'm going to cover just the basics, and yeah, so basically what you'll want to do is you'll want to pull down the cheat sheet from RStudio's website. There's a DPLYR cheat sheet, and just practice on the built-in data sets within R, slicing and dicing and doing all sorts of stuff. Do that for a week or two, and then move on to ggplot and other packages in R. And within a couple months, you'll be up and running, and you'll fill in the gaps as you go along. So let's get into it. So DPLYR is a package by Hadley Wickham. He's kind of like a R superstar when it comes to creating packages. And basically what this is kind of built up as is that there's verbs. So think of filter, select, and we'll go over these, mutate, summarize, and let's see, there is group by, and there's a couple other little ones that we don't use very frequently. Okay, so each one of these verbs is held together by this piping indicator, which is percent sign, greater than, and a percent sign. And think of this for all intents and purposes as glue. Okay, so what you'll want to do, I'm going to turn down my volume here. You'll tie the verbs together with this glue, which is a piping indicator, and it's from the Magichart package, by the way. Okay, so let's just get going. So there's a built-in data set in R called mtcars, and just basically you press Alt-Enter, or you can highlight it and hit Run up here. I just go Alt-Enter because it's faster. Okay, then you have in the console, which is down here. So this is the place where you'd write your code, and then think of this as kind of like chicken scratch, but you try to make it organized. And down here is the console where everything will print out. And you can see that this data set is, well, you got MPG, cylinders, displacement, horsepower, so on and so forth, and these are cars, okay? And we're just gonna, we don't care about the data set, we just wanna kind of play with it, okay? So let's start with filter. mtcars, you start with the data frame, then you put that glue together because you're gonna glue a verb to it. Then you go filter, and we're gonna say MPG, we wanna filter MPG greater than 21, okay? Alt-Enter will run the whole code. And now what we have is a new data frame. If we look down here in the console, we have a new data frame, and all the cars are MPGs greater than 21. Now what if we wanted, like right over here, you can see there's a gear column, and there's 4, 3, and 5. So there's 3 types of gears, and we want just the gears that are 4, and we want the cars that are greater than 25, right? So then we would go gear, and in R for equals, you put 2 equal signs, and then we put equal to 4, and then we hit Alt-Enter, and now we have just the gears 4 with the miles per gallon greater than 21, and you can see that out of all the observations in the data set, there are only 8. Okay. All right. So what if we want to go ahead and use the select? So we're going to put some glue in there, right? The piping operator, and we're going to select. And what are we going to select? Well, so filter is filtering out the rows, and select is filtering out the columns. So let's look at the column names. And we can see there's MPG cylinder, right? So maybe we want MPG cylinder. We definitely want gear and carb. Okay. Then we can run that, Alt Enter. And now basically what we have is just those columns with those filters that we put in. Okay, pretty cool, huh? Okay, so what about if we want to go a little more advanced? So we're going to empty cars, and we're going to talk about group by. So we're going to group by. We're going to group by gear. Okay, so we know that there are 3 gears. There's three types of gears. There's a 3 gear, a 4 gear, and a 5 gear. And we're going to put gear. Okay, then we're going to put some glue in there, and then we're going to use this other verb called summarize. And the first call in summarize is the name of the new column. Okay, so we're just going to call it n. And then there's a function called n in the DPLYR package. So we will use n and then parentheses, and then we can leave it in blank because it will know. And if we look, we can see that the gear is 3, and there are in the data frame there are 15 3-gear cars, there are 12 4-gear cars, and there are 5 5-gear cars. Okay, but what if we want to do, and this is where the power comes in. We'll name this new column average, and we'll go mean MPG, and you just want to get in the habit of going not NA remove equals true, just in case there are NAs, which there aren't, but just get in the habit of doing that. Okay, so now we have n average. So what it's going to do, and then just think about this for a moment, it's going to split up the 3, 4s, and 5s. So look down here, and it's going to take the 3s, the 15 observations, and it's going to calculate the mean for just those. Then it's going to take the 4s and calculate the mean for those 12, and then it's going to take the 5s and calculate the mean for those 5. Now, why that's interesting is because in Excel or without DPLYR, you would actually have to go and do that calculation one by one, right? So you would do the 3s, you would do the 4s, you would do the 5s. It could be really messy. This just did it in one shot. And you can see that out of the 15 observations down here in the console, for the 3 gears, the average miles per gallon is 16.1. Okay. Now there are all sorts of functions that you can attach to this, like we'll go standard deviation, and then SD, and we want the standard deviation of what? We want to put in MPG, right? And we can run this code. And now we have the standard deviation as well. Okay, pretty cool. All right, so let's go on to mutate. So mutate is a very powerful function. Let's put the data frame, some glue. We're going to group by, and since we're familiar with gear now, we'll use gear. And then we'll put in some glue. And then we're going to go mutate, and we're going to do the same thing. N equals N. And because we're calculating N rows, we don't need to put anything in there. Okay, and then we're going to go average equals mean MPG. I'll skip the NA remove equals true for right now. And then we're going to calculate the standard deviation of the MPG. Okay, so what this is going to do is this is going to create 2 new columns in the data frame itself, right? So now we have, oh, there we go. Now we have, if you look at the data frame, we have all the columns that we had before, but now we have 3 new ones, N, average, and standard deviation. Okay, so you can see here that there are, in the gear column, the 4s, we know that there are 12 observations. Okay, so if we look up here, we know that there were 12, and it will also calculate, it will put in the average and the standard deviation for all the observations. Now, what if we wanted to do a manipulation to those columns? Well, we could say mean divided by standard deviation. So we'll go ratio, call it ratio, and then we'll put mean divided by standard deviation. Oops, I'm sorry, I probably should have put that down here. Ratio equals mean divided by standard deviation. Okay. And now we're going to have a new, let's see, what did I do wrong here? Oh, average. So I'm using the column names. So average divided by and then we want standard deviation like that. Okay, and when we do that, we'll see that there's a new column called ratio, which we were able to add by just adding this. And now in Mutate, you can also pass functions and all sorts of stuff, but that's advanced, and you'll get there in a couple weeks. Okay, so so that's a quick introduction to DPLYR. We're at the 10-minute mark, so I'm a little bit over, but I recommend that you, like I said, go pull that RStudio cheat sheet. Practice this for a week or two. It's not classical piano. You can learn it quick. And I'd say within a couple weeks, you will be ditching Excel and for DPLYR. And I also want to show you one other thing. So you can also bring this back to Excel, right? By just basically using this write CSV function. And I'm not going to mess with it, but you can just bring it back to Excel, and so you do all your data analysis, and then you punch it back to Excel using this write CSV command. Okay, that's it. Talk to you soon.